that's what I did over and over again when I was in the alternate coins. You just keep losing your shirt to centralized power, right? Some founder wakes up on a Tuesday and he decides he wants to take a project in a different direction. You don't have no choice, and the price of the coin affects that.
I think maybe it's already a really good start to the podcast, because I literally watched a series called Rookie, and something really interesting happened there. And I thought about Bitcoin the whole point where it was going through. There was this guy, a policeman, and he got frauded of his money, identity theft. And I was like, that's such a bad thing, and it can happen so easily in the fiat system, because with basically a fake identity and with the right face, you can get anyone's bank information, you can get anyone's thing. But if you have Bitcoin in self custody, nobody can get to that.
No.
Nobody can fake that. You cannot call with a fake ID some customer service and bully him into giving the password out or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I just thought about that when you said like what Bitcoin, because you don't risk it and you just have it, and you like it's your responsibility. Of course, there are stories where people lose their Bitcoin, but in all of those stories, there's a clear mistakes from the user somewhere in there.
And you know what? Another important point is not only can it be self-custodied, it can be audited, right? So you can verify the quantity at any time. Like I have a computer here. If I know your wallet address or a community wallet address, or you guys have like a community vault or a family Bitcoin stash, anybody can audit it at any time. Like I'm actually going through right now an estate matter. My grandparents passed away, and my aunt is the executor. And this is another problem with the fiat system, is she had total control of my grandparents' estate, and she's gone and fabricated these two bank accounts, and she's trying to make our family believe that my grandparents didn't have any money. And she has the ability, because of the fiat system, she was the power of attorney. She could go into a bank and open a bank account in my grandfather's name 3 years ago, and then create all these fake transactions to make it look like a real bank account. And I'm having a hard time in the fiat system. I have to pay a lawyer a great amount of money to try and prove that this is all a fraud. And it's very difficult in the fiat system, where if my grandparents, if everything was in Bitcoin, which I tried to urge them later in their lives, but it didn't work out, the whole family could have seen what their wealth was, and it would have been an open book. Right. And some families might not like that. They're very private. And that's maybe a symptom of the fiat system, is something to be, hide your wealth and be secretive about it. But that's one of the benefits of Bitcoin, is we would have been able to audit it, and we wouldn't have to go through all this. Like now, most of my money is going towards lawyers trying to prove something that I shouldn't have to do. So that's a good segue.
That's crazy.
Centralized authority, right? The fiat system is centralized authority.
Absolutely. And that's crazy to hear. But maybe before we go deeper in those things, maybe give the viewers and the listeners some background of like who you are, and especially why you're excited about Bitcoin and how you got here.
Awesome. Well, as many people know, my tag is Cooligan Fields, but I'm better known as Tommy Boy on Twitter. I use Tommy, the movie Tommy Boy, Chris Farley, the actor. I really looked up to him growing up. He was really kooky and funny, and he'd make people laugh. So back in 2000, when I was getting into Bitcoin on Twitter, I thought, everybody was being somebody fake. So I picked somebody that I thought was awesome, which was Tommy Boy, and it's kind of spiraled from there, and it's turned into a really big account. I have quite a following now. It's mainly, I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. I only post about Bitcoin unless I'm trash talking one of the other coins. But in my real life, I'm actually an industrial mechanic, which is also known as a millwright. So I'm in the skilled trades sector in my country. So I work in a factory. I'm the guy that keeps all the machines running in the factory. So I have this unique mind where I can take things apart in my head and put them back together in a mechanical sense, right? So I was always mechanically inclined. I could take things apart and put them together. I'm in the middle of renovating my bathroom right now. I built my deck on the back. Like I do all my own auto work. I don't take it to a shop. I really use my hands a lot, and that brought me to Bitcoin, right? Being a mechanic and understanding, wanting to get to the fundamentals of how things work and run. And then when I turned that to look at like my money and my savings and the fiat system, then my eyes really opened up in 2020 when I came to Bitcoin from Ethereum. My journey started with Ethereum. Someone at my workplace said, "Hey, have you heard about this new thing, Ethereum?" And so I got involved in it a little bit, but I kept getting like a weird feeling in my stomach. Like with Ethereum, you have a founder, Vitalik Buterin. He has done things with Ethereum. He rolled it back in, I think, 2017. That's when I started to get into it. And I was like, what? He can roll back the time chain? And I was like, okay, that's a little odd. And then I was actually building a GPU mining rig. I had a 6-card rig in my basement running, and it was mining Ethereum. Everything was fine and dandy. And then all of a sudden, he switched over. Vitalik and the founding team decided they were going to switch to proof of stake instead of proof of work. And overnight, my mining rig, it just shut off. It wasn't making me any profit. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on here? Like how do I keep getting rug pulled and I have no say in it, right? I didn't have a say in it. Also, too, I went into SHIB. Like during that time, I was in the altcoins. I bought Shiba Inu. And again, the founding team donated like a plethora of Shiba Inu to Vitalik. And he donated it to some third world charity. And overnight, the price plummeted. And I was sitting there holding a pile of them. I'm like, oh my God, it's happening again. I keep getting rug pulled in the alternate coin space. And then so that brought me to NFTs. I was caught up in the NFT craze of I think 2022. I ended up buying these penguins. They were called pesky penguins, and they were valued on their rarity. So how if they had a tie on or a cigar, that made it more rare. And I'm just like collecting cards, like hockey cards. And then overnight, I think I went away camping or something, and I came back a week later, and the whole project had changed. They changed all the aspects of the penguins. They had demon ones, they had robotic ones, and all the rarity levels changed. And again, I had no say in it. Nobody asked me. So I think at that point, that's when I found the Bitcoin Standard and Saifedean Ammous, and I owe him everything because once I started reading the Bitcoin Standard, I understood the difference between alternate coins and Bitcoin. One is centralized, one is decentralized, right? And that is a critical point in Bitcoin is the decentralization. Some people they just want to buy the token and hold it, but for me, I went down a deep rabbit hole and I wanted to understand. Okay, so what's the mining? What's mining? I ended up buying some S9s and doing mining. I actually took me about a month, but I got a node running, which is like for someone like me, I'm not super computer technical. I'm more mechanical. Like I said, I take nuts and bolts apart, but the node to get on the computer was great. That once you run a node, you understand true decentralization. Like I run an accurate record of all the transactions going on now and in the past on my computer. And that lends back to the auditing. So I can audit on my own computer, not only my wallet, but I can also audit the supply. So there's a command. You pop up in the command window and you type in get tx outset info, one word, and you hit enter, and it takes about 8 minutes, but the program actually audits the entire system and it'll spit back exactly how many Bitcoins exist, which is, I say that to people and it kind of goes over their head like, whatever. But is the price going to go down? I'm like, no. You need to understand that I can audit the supply. From a $50 computer sitting in my living room, I can literally audit the entire supply. Can you do that with gold? No. Can you do it with diamonds? No. Can you do it with art? No. Can you do it with real estate? No. Can you do it with stocks? No. There's so many no's. This one aspect of Bitcoin, it really gives me goosebumps when I think about it, about auditing the supply. That's an amazing feature. So that brings me up to about 2022. I got a firm grasp of what Bitcoin actually was. And now for the last year or two, I've actually been able to transition from learning to teaching, right? It's been a weird 2024, 2025, where I haven't done as much understanding what Bitcoin is because I feel like I have a firm grasp on it. And now I get to try and use my mind to help other people understand. Like, for instance, sitting down with our MP last week, I got to try and help him understand it on a fundamental level, right? But we'll talk more about that in a bit on my meeting with Terry Dowdle. So again, I got rug pulled, and then that brought me to Bitcoin and understanding the fiat system. From there, I just started reading and devouring as much information as I could. The Creature from Jekyll Island is a critical book. All people must read that. The Richest Man in Babylon, another great book that everybody needs to read. The Sovereign Individual. Also, the Bitcoin Standard. That's the premier Bible of Bitcoin, is the Bitcoin Standard. You need to start there, read that book, and understand it. So that's where I'm at today, Robin. Maybe we could talk about some other things if you wish.
It is super interesting. I have a bunch of things we can go in there. I think the first thing is the last thing you said is with the books. There are the Creature of Jekyll Island and all those great books that you have mentioned. It's a thing where they're not Bitcoin books except the Bitcoin Standard, but they explain Bitcoin in a way without really mentioning Bitcoin, or they give you a new perspective that you're like, oh yeah, that's a Bitcoin book. right,
Yeah.
right there. What have you learned from those books about Bitcoin without really like learning something on Bitcoin?
Well, more it taught me the system that we're currently in, the fiat system, which is the dollar system, right? If you don't understand that you're an ostrich with your head in the sand, then you have no chance, right? Up until up into my 20s and into my 30s, I'm just into my 40s now, but I was blind to all the corruption, all the printing of money, right? And now you see it more and more, that the printing of money is inflation. It's a cancer on our society. When a politician can just show up and click one button and create billions of dollars, he not only creates chaos in the market, he robs people of their life energy. Like me and you, Robin, we're going to work very hard our entire lives. We're proof of work, right? This podcast is proof of work. Everything I do is proof of work, and I get rewarded accordingly. My boss says, okay, you give me 1 hour of your time, I will give you $50. And that's a fair trade. But how is it fair that some person in a suit or tie can walk up and click a button and create billions of dollars from thin air without creating any value for people, and just injecting that into the market? That was the biggest eye-opening thing for me. And then so that made me search for an alternate. And then that's when I ran into Bitcoin, right? It is the alternate. It, like I said, it's auditable, right? It's fixed, right? It's a fixed supply. It's decentralized, right? And it runs on proof of work. Okay, proof of work to me is aside from auditing, the proof of work is essential. Like, to me, being a man, a worker in society, I see the results of proof of work. Okay, the alternate is proof of stake. Proof of stake means if you're rich, you get richer. Okay, if you have a big bag of money and you put it somewhere, people will give you more money for that. And that to me it's predatory. You're earning off of nothing, right? Just because you maybe have a big bag of money, you should get richer and richer in this world. No, that doesn't seem right to me. I feel like the workers, the ants of this world, should be rewarded. Like, if you're willing to work hard, like you in this podcast that I've watched over the last few years, like just grow and grow and grow, like I'm sure you're exhausted. Like this is proof of work and you're being rewarded accordingly. That is the fundamental law of the universe. Okay. The universe is proof of work, right? Everything around you is created by the sun. The sun is working right now. It's creating energy, and we're all benefiting from that. But when someone can just walk up and create something from nothing, it's not only a magic trick. It's predatory, and it should be criminal, really. And hopefully, we transition into the new system of Bitcoin, where if you don't work, you don't get rewarded.
What do you think the implications of that fiat system are, and maybe on the flip side of that, once on an individual level and or on like a political or society level or on a group level in general? What are the implications then if we like opt out and use the Bitcoin system?
Hmm. Jeff Booth brings it up in The Price of Tomorrow that a deflationary system is actually beneficial to the world. Like I'm sure there will still be like public systems like welfare that where people that need assistance and can't provide work for society, they get the protection they need. But I do see, like, if you look back in the 60s and the 50s and the 40s, before money printing really took off, it really was the golden era of, like, science and art and stuff. Like, we've been living off the inventions for decades now. Me and you, off the telephone, off the computer, the internet. These things have all been around since the 1900s, and they were created in a more constricted system, like a more um, you know, fixed supply system. Inflation was set at 1%. They didn't print trillions of dollars. There wasn't all these government branches that are just bloated with workers that like really provide no value. So the money went into research and development. That's when the Wright brothers made an airplane and we got to fly over the ocean, right? What's the last greatest invention that we've had? The internet. And then along comes Bitcoin. To me, Bitcoin is the next wheel, right? It's gonna take us to where we need to be, and hopefully curb some of this government overspending.
It's a good point of like we have so much overspending. The fiat system is such an and there's I think I mean with the creature of Jekyll Island and there are people that like set up that system, but I think most people that work even now in the fiat system, they don't really are evil. They just feed a system that isn't good, and the
Yeah,
system is kind of the wrongdoing, and not per se the people in it, especially because there are a lot of people involved in central banking and all those things.
yeah,
And I've met people that work in banking, and they they are so deep into that system that they don't really see what's wrong with the system because
yeah,
they're depending on the system. So
yeah,
it's a hard thing. And even people that are not working directly in there, but just are reliant on it in some way or a sense, it's fascinating if you think about how this whole thing evolved. I hope that in 50 years we look back and see that moment in time of like a temporary uptick in central banking starting from 1971. Maybe I don't know where the prime time of central banking is. Maybe 2025. Maybe
yeah,
that's a year. 2020, I think it was also a big year. We printed a lot of money
yeah,
in that year. But I hope we look back in like 50 years and say like, oh yeah, like thank God for Bitcoin.
yeah. Me and you. Yeah,
Thank God this Bitcoin thing came along, and we have documentaries and Netflix movies
yeah.
on how fiat rise and fall through Bitcoin. But yeah, I think we have a lot of hard work still to do.
Yeah, I think there is going to be like a churning, like a fourth churning, where it is going to be very difficult for some people because, like you said, they're stuck on the fiat system. Their livelihoods come from centralized money printing. I have many friends that are investors and they live off dividends. They will never give up their dividends. And I'm not sure if you know what that is. Here, if you buy a stock, some stocks pay dividends, which is like a small percentage you get in cash, right, in fiat, where you can then turn around and buy more of that stock. It's like a snowball going down a mountain, and this thing is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And hopefully, me and you, and with this podcast and going out and talking to people, we can help educate them and make the transition not so difficult. And I find in the last year or two, it's actually been a lot easier talking to people about Bitcoin. From 2017 to 2024, it was pretty tough. Nobody wanted to hear about it. The price was too volatile. The price may still be volatile in the future. We don't know, right? And that's what most people want to talk to me about, price, but it's difficult. I don't care about the price. I apologize. I care about the price if it goes down, because then I can buy more, right? When I try and explain to people Bitcoin, I try and use analogies. And a great analogy I find is I compare Bitcoin to beef, right? We all need protein. We all need food, and we need meat. Okay, so if you go to the grocery store and a T-bone steak that regularly costs $50 is on sale for $25, what's your natural inclination? You're going to buy 3 or 4 of these steaks, and you're going to put them in the freezer, and you're going to save them, and you're going to be like, yes, I just got a $50 steak for $25. You feed your family, everybody's happy. You need to look at Bitcoin in this same lens. It is a fundamental thing that everybody needs. So when you see it on sale, you're better off to pick up more of it than to be afraid of it, right? If I go to the grocery store and things are on sale, I load up on them. Why would you look at Bitcoin any differently? It is a set of rules that are running that are never going to change, right? You can look at the rules. They're open to everybody, right? It's an open source code. So if you don't understand at this point, it kind of falls on you, because you understand other things. So you shouldn't have a problem understanding when it's explained to you with simple analogies like that, right?
Yeah, I actually used back in the day in the stock world where I was coming from. I used the analogy of a sock. If you really like a sock and you have the sock on every day anyways, and you know you need those socks anyways, if you go to the store and they're 50% off, are you buying more of them or not? Because you will probably use those socks for the rest of your life, and they're not going bad. Like a sock that is not used, laying in a drawer, will not go bad for like anytime soon. I don't have no clue if socks
Yeah.
go bad, but like they have a very long life in front of them. So it's funny because I never made the comparison with Bitcoin, but it's with Bitcoin even better than with any stocks, because stocks do turn bad. Stocks do carry a lot of risks with the management team and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's funny. I got back to my stocks day because I literally made that comparison so many times. And you mentioned previously the fourth turning. I think that's something that came up here and there in the podcast. Maybe you can explain us a little bit of what's the theory behind the fourth turning, and why do you compare it to that?
Yeah, I'm not really that knowledgeable on the 4 cycles. I do know that there is 4 churnings, and they generally run in, I think, 100-year cycles. So you get 20 years of like easy life. Everything's good. There's abundance of stuff. And then I think in the second churning, people start waking up and realizing. The third churning gets a little bit worse. Things start getting like in less supply, right? Things are starting to run out. And then in the fourth churning, it's when it's the worst, and everybody realizes that the system is corrupted and it's not working and it needs to change.
Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast. And if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here or here. Oh, maybe also here.